Ready? Okay. My name is Mark Goldner, and I'm here with Michiu Kaku, author of Physics of the Future, many other books too. You've written Parallel Worlds, Physics of the Impossible, and what I have, first question for you, is it seems that, in your view, almost nothing is not achievable by science and technology. I feel that we're moving to a point where we could hit a singularity, as Ray Kurzweil says, within the next half century. Do you feel that we are moving to a point where it is the general public's responsibility to be educated in a field of science? And how can we prevent technology from taking over, let's say, jobs and not conflicting with things like peak oil and population, overpopulation? And how are we able to, I guess, have all these different societal norms and education where a scientist is not really able to be the only job out there?
Well, the number one issue in the world today is, where do jobs come from? Is it tax policy? Is it incentives? Is it government spending? Wrong. All jobs ultimately come from science. Science is the engine of prosperity. In the 1800s, it was steam power and the locomotives. Then in the 1900s, it was electricity and gasoline-fired cars. In this century, it's the computer, lasers, high-tech, satellite technology. We scientists are now creating the engine of prosperity for the next generation. Biotechnology, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, telecommunications. They will be the engines that create jobs. Now, you ask a question, will jobs be eliminated by technology? Some, yes. We no longer have blacksmiths anymore. But we don't care. We don't need blacksmiths anymore, because blacksmiths then became automobile workers. Now, what happens to automobile workers today? They have to be retrained because the economy itself is changing. And in my book, I talk about the jobs of the future, the jobs that will give high-paying salaries for people, but the politicians don't see it that way. The politicians see it as a zero-sum game. Tax Peter to pay Paul. I say, wrong. We need a bigger pie. Instead of cutting the pie smaller and smaller, we need a bigger pie by funding science. Look at the transistor. Look at radar, lasers. Look at television, radio, microwaves. Look at MRI machines, PET scans. All of them created industries. And that's what we need. More science, not less.
All right. So if we have more science, I'm sure you mentioned TV. A couple shows that come to mind when it comes to futuristic sci-fi tech. I think of Heroes. I think of Lost. I think of how time could either be a straight line, it could be a circle, it could be a loop, it could be a record that could be displaced. So how would you say that this could relate to the concept of, let's say, in Lost immediately, or Heroes, I think of a conspiracy. Now, would you say that back iPod tech, iPhone tech, it's been around since, let's say, Vietnam. There's technology out there that's not available to the masses. It's 30 years ahead of our time because it's not cost affordable for them to mass produce. What type of technology do you think that there is that the government or the special interest groups are holding back, and that we will see within the next 100, 200 years, even in the next 2-3 years?
Well, realize that computer power doubles every 18 months. In 10 years' time, that means a chip will cost about a penny. That's the cost of scrap paper and bubblegum wrappers. So chips will be everywhere and nowhere, including, for example, our contact lens. So our contact lens will have full internet capability. I will blink and I will go online. I will see you, and I'll see your biography printed right next to your face. If you speak to me in Chinese, I'll see subtitles underneath your picture, so I will always know what you were saying, when you were saying it. And the first people to buy these internet contact lenses will be college students studying for final examinations. They will blink and they will see all the answers right in front of them. The military, you mentioned the military is developing these things for their soldiers. I had a chance to put one of these on in Fort Benning, Georgia. We took a film crew from the Science Channel down there and had a chance to actually see the military's version of the Internet of the battlefield. You simply flick it down in front of your eyes and you see the entire battlefield laid out. So remember that it's very difficult to hide these technologies. We scientists are developing it. Once the marketplace senses that there's money to be made, investors will dump money on these things, and the internet will be everywhere and nowhere. Inside your contact lens, inside your wristwatch, this table, everything will become intelligent in the future.
Okay. You mentioned earlier in your panel that Arthur C. Clarke, he said that magic is pretty much science that hasn't been discovered yet, science that we could possibly discover. This is not a widely accepted view. So what I ask you is, how are we able to really educate the masses in order to conform them into a type of futuristic scientific view, and what can we tell people that what they should study, or what will be available, what's actually useful in the future?
Well, when some people see science fiction, they say, ha! They say snicker, and they say, that's just science fiction garbage, that's Hollywood scriptwriters' overheated imagination. Well, yes, in some sense, but also realize that science fiction points the way to the future. That if you want to see the future, read science fiction. For example, in 1860, Jules Verne predicted the moon program 100 years later. He predicted that 100 years later in Paris, there would be glass skyscrapers, the internet, fax machines, gasoline-fired engines. He predicted that in 1863. And so H.G. Wells predicted the atomic bomb back in 1914. So science fiction is not always correct, but it does show the way of the future. And that's why I like Arthur C. Clarke's famous statement that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Now think about it. In 1900, our predecessors, our grandparents, our grandparents of 1900 could see us today with rocket ships, the internet, space satellites, laser beams, they would consider us to be wizards and sorcerers, and yet these are our grandparents. Now think of your grandkids. Your grandkids in the year 2100, they will have powers unimaginable by today's standards. We will consider them to have the power of a god. That is, the ability to slow down the aging process, to have a body like Venus, timeless body, to have mental powers like Zeus, able to manipulate computers and objects around them. Pegasus, the magic horse that flies, we will have animals that we create out of the laboratory. So by the year 2100, we will have the power of a Greek god.
I have one. Okay, it was actually my last question. My last question for you is, I've read a lot about things about. I'm sure you're familiar with Erich Von Daniken.
I've met him.
You've met him.
Yeah.
Okay, so his theories on how everything was built. We have the Nazca airstrip. We have the Great Pyramids, Stonehenge. We have all these ancient architectures.
Mm-hmm.
We have all these ancient architectures that have been built hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of years ago. We're not really sure how they're built. So earlier in your panel, you also mentioned the concept of science fiction versus science fact. So what I wanted to ask you is a few quick things, and I'm going to name some things, and you can say fact or fiction. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Teleportation.
True at the atomic scale.
Time travel.
Not yet, but maybe in a few centuries.
Immortality.
Within the next few decades, we will slow down the aging process. Maybe by the end of the century, have timeless bodies.
Phasers.
We already have lasers more powerful than the phasers of Star Trek.
Multiverse and parallel Earths.
That's the leading theory of cosmology, that there are parallel universes.
Telepathy and telekinesis.
We have telepathy today in the laboratory. And if you hook up these devices to a machine, that is telekinesis. So by mid-century, we will communicate with computers by telepathy.
Downloading books into our brains.
That is not possible today. But in mice, we've been able to actually put artificial memories into a mouse brain. That was only done last month.
Shape-shifting.
Oh, that is very difficult. By the end of the century, we hope to, at the atomic scale, be able to rearrange objects to form anything you want. But that's 100 years in the future.
UFOs, either government, extraterrestrial, artificial intelligence, ancient astronauts, or aliens.
Okay, I think aliens are out there. Whether or not we can make contact with them, we don't know. We don't know when it's going to take place. But we've already discovered planets that look very much like the Earth in outer space. So I think it's inevitable we will make contact with aliens.
Do you think we have?
Not yet.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Do you mind taking a picture?
Okay, hold on a second.
Oh. Very good. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.